Hello and welcome to another Daily Muppet. A busy Monday here with a fair bit of news, but also to discuss training, videos that have come out, and the impending start of preseason, as well as an update on the situation with Cristiano Ronaldo. So let's start it off with Frenkie De Jong. As I mentioned in a tweet on Saturday or Friday evening, there was no new concerns, no new worries. The simple fact is, at the moment, the club are simply worried about or trying to resolve the situation with the deferred payments to him in terms of salary and bonuses and such to his agent from Barcelona that are due. The fee is agreed. There is no concern there. And then a briefing came out on Sunday night from multiple of United Tier 1s, James Ducker, Samuel Luckhurst, and others, that this was the case and that they're still just working on resolving the deferred payments. Now, that doesn't mean they're 100% that this will get resolved, but that is the only concern with regards to Frenkie De Jong. The club and Ten Hag have spoken to him and his representatives many, many times, and obviously they still insist that they're optimistic of the deal occurring. They feel the deal's there with Barcelona. They feel Frenkie's open to join and even wanting to join. But this issue, not that he doesn't want to stay at Barcelona, but this issue of the deferred payments and wages does have to be resolved. What I understand right now is they want some face-to-face with Barcelona to press on this issue this week and find out how and when it can actually be resolved. They are growing a bit tired and frustrated of all the public games. So if you've seen some of the insistence, the talk, potential alternatives, things like that, some of it is really just because of the frustration of how long it's taking and the need to resolve it and being sure that Barcelona aren't going to pull any other crap in the deal. The thing is, though, by all accounts, Barcelona have got to resolve it. There is nobody reliable that has not said that in order for Frenkie to stay, he would have to significantly reduce his contract, and that doesn't seem like it's something that's going to happen. They already owe him a lot of money from past deferred wages. Asking him to accept a reduction now is a big deal. They cannot pay De Jong's wages this year and do what they need to do in the market. They don't want to pay him that, and they are going to ask him for a reduction in his wages. United, from their discussions with Frenkie De Jong and his representatives, they don't believe that Frenkie would accept this pay cut. And I think even in Spain, it's been reported by Luis Rojo and others that they don't expect he will take it. Fabrizio Romano said he won't and doesn't want to accept a pay cut. And so if you look at it in that basis, the only route out is which Barcelona are forced to compromise on this deferred wages things and sell him to get him out of the club. The fact is, a compromise between all parties where United maybe pays some, where De Jong maybe takes a little bit of a cut, where Barcelona pays some, will speed it up and ensure that it happens. But at the moment, United are still in the driver's seat with the caveat that they, of course, need the player. So they can sit and wait and know that Barcelona have to resolve this and not offer any extra money. But, it'd be better at this point almost if they just put some money up front for it. Many of these last few weeks were supposed to be the week that something happens. And it's definitely gone well beyond what United expected. However, this week, Barcelona are supposedly going to pull that second lever that gives them the cash that may allow them to resolve this situation. De Jong is supposed to return to Barcelona. He wants his future resolved. He wants to have these discussions, and they're going to basically have to ask him to take a pay cut. And United are pressing for some finality on this as preseason really kicks off. The rest of my video will be fairly positive because there's some really good things to be positive about. But I do just want to bring this point up to me, as it at times it's a carryover of Woodward and of the Glazer ownership and something that needs correcting within the negotiation side of the deal. There was an article that came out on Friday, I think, from Laurie Whitwell, and it was about how there's frustrations at the club, at the protracted negotiations when there's no need for it and it's unnecessary. They talk about how but prices go up over time and blah, blah, blah. And I want to talk about this. First of all, prices have gone up because they waited and didn't move quick enough, not for any other reason. And the thing is, the problem with the negotiation method at United is it's a business-first model. With business, profit is your ultimate goal, and when you negotiate deals, agreements, purchases, and prices, you need the best price possible because your highest priority in the deal is, does this deal make us more money? And you do not do it if it does not make you more money. And the price negotiated has a huge impact on that. If you're making and negotiating a price on purchasing a large amount of supplies or, goods, you need to make sure that your margins are there so that when you sell, you're actually making the profit that's going to cover the expense and the overhead of production and marketing and sales and all of that. That's not football. You see, in football negotiations, the priority number one should be, does this make our football team better? Number two, is there an alternative that would have as much or near the amount of impact? And if the answer to one is yes and the answer to two is no, you just pay. You pay. You just do it. You do what it takes to get the deal done. You have to, because your priority is to make the football club better. Our negotiations for too long have been business-oriented. The priorities of saving money, getting the best deal, and then when and if the transfer happens tend to be down near the bottom. And the funny thing is, in doing this so much, you end up not getting the best deal, because in the football world, many clubs operate a totally different way, right? They're not operating as a business. So they don't like necessarily dealing with clubs that operate this way because they become a pain to deal with. And in football, United have a reputation of being quite annoying to deal with, and not in a good way, of submitting lowball bids, of doing these complex negotiation tactics instead of just paying. We've seen it with City. They'll just go and often just pay or offer the money. We've seen it with Liverpool. They just go and often pay. Madrid will pay a lot of money. They throw money at things. And I know I'm not saying that you have to be irresponsible with the money. But Madrid, when they want a player, they tend to pay what is asked. In the end, that's what they do. They pay what is asked. Levy built up a reputation of being poor to deal with, and it hurt Tottenham's transfer dealings for a while. It's why Tottenham have a difficulty selling, why United have a difficulty selling, because they hold out for the most amount of money on the sale end, but then are tough negotiators on the buying end. And you end up with a bad reputation, and it doesn't really get you better deals. Clubs that walk in and just ask, pay the price or near it without too much haggling, without too much BS, they get good reputations, they get good relationships, and clubs want to work with them and give them the better or a fair price simply because it is easier to do, and they know it'll get done quick, which allows them to also move forward with their own reinforcements, their own summers, and take that money and put it to good use. Of course, they negotiate, but they mostly understand that dragging it out doesn't help either party. And this is something that I do believe needs to change at United if they are to have some success in the market in the ensuing years and change things. It's not about being too hard on the deals when you need these players. It's about building a good and better reputation and better relationships with other clubs that allow you to do deals a bit easier. So moving on with that, Lisandro Martinez, this is an example of this. United are surprised that their offer hasn't been accepted. It was worth 50 million euros. They feel as though Ajax are playing games a bit now, especially as the player has wanted the move. I don't think they're going to pay 60 million, which is now being the price mentioned by the Dutch reporter, but we'll see. I'm not sure if this is related to Brabi. I'm not sure if it relates to United also unsettling Antony at the same time, or if Ajax are making a clear look, if you're going to come try to take both of our players, we're just going to make the price extremely high. So leave it alone. You can have Martinez. Antony's off the table. I don't know if that's the case. It might be. I wouldn't be surprised. They talked over the weekend, but no progress has been made as of yet. I think it's going to require a push from Martinez's side, certainly, to say, hey, that 50 million is fair. That's what you mentioned. I want this move. Let me go. And I think it's going to take United saying, fine, we'll get Martinez. We're going to leave Antony. It's a little concerning, as obviously, what's the alternative now if this doesn't work out? You could say back to Pau Torres, but apparently Ten Hag has vetoed that one, so he's not a fan of the player. It's a tricky situation right now, and I'm not sure, exactly what they do about it at the moment. The next player where it's very good is Christian Eriksen. The expectation right now is for him to have his medical early in the week and fly out later in the week. And I'm waiting for an update on this if and when it happens. And, although it'll be more stringent, as reported, more to it due to his heart condition, everything I've heard from a few different places indicates he's believed to be in fantastic health, with no issues at all presently or since with his heart, that his heart is in great shape, that everything about him is in great shape, and there is expected to be absolutely no issues at all in any sort of medical, even if there are a couple extra steps that they'll be looking into. He's been monitored for a couple years since this incident occurred very strongly. There's a lot of data there. And so I think that that's the main thing is that, but that there's no issues to be expected at all. They fully, and not just at United but elsewhere, fully expect that Christian Eriksen will have no health issues of any kind, and the goal is for him to fly out later this week, but not to be the only one on the plane, because that brings us to Cristiano Ronaldo. The club want him to join up with the preseason team this week. There was a medical issue. I want to be clear about something. There was a medical issue with his family. Apparently it will be okay. But they expect him this week, and they still expect to have him. That is the club. Now, there is still a bit of a difference publicly and privately. There's a potential that they will move on from him, and that there's an acceptance of allowing him to go if he really pushes. But as of right now, and you've seen what Ten Hag said in his press conference about this, that he's player there, they expect him to stay, they don't want to sell him, and they expect him here this week. Now, if he is not flying out around this week or with Eriksen mid or later this week, I would say it would be a decent indication that he may not come back to United, and that there may be a deal lined up for him to leave over the ensuing weeks. I think United won't want to let anyone go until they can really nail down some of these bigger signings and get them in. So, all in all, it's a bit of a mixed bag of concerns right now when it comes to transfers specifically. Malaysia is done. Eriksen is fine. There's nothing wrong there. He's joining up. He'll have plenty of time. He's an experienced player. They're very nice signings. They are. Martinez would be a big help for Ten Hag, but he really does need to push, and the De Jong situation remains the same, with Ten Hag and the club still thinking they'll get him. Obviously, the time is becoming a concern at the moment. The first, Premier League game is in less than 4 weeks. They need to get him in. They need to get at least De Jong in. They just have to. Me personally, I'd be quite happy with Malaysia, Eriksen, Martinez, and De Jong. I consider it a success. I've said many times I think they need a striker. I think there's other things that they need, but I also recognize and can acknowledge that this is a long-term project. And I've said before, but I think you can make a mistake trying to fill every single hole and buy 6-8 players for all these different positions before actually playing with what you've got and seeing what the team can do, and from there assessing and evaluating needs. If you spend too much money and start buying too many players, not only does it add pressure to win now, does it imbalance certain things in the locker room, which are important dynamics, and does it limit your future spending and limit your future purchases because you have too many players in different positions? Yes, it does do that if you do too much. The squad doesn't need to be lean, but as I see it, there's a lot of options with the signings mentioned if they can get those 4 in. And there's a lot you can evaluate. You can evaluate so many of the attackers and young guys and see what they can do this season. You can evaluate Rashford and Sancho and Martial and Elanga. And obviously Pellistri, Ahmad, and probably or potentially still Ronaldo, although you would like to see somebody come in the front line if he does leave. But there's a lot of options with those signings. You can look at them, you can see what they can do, and perhaps next season it becomes more clear you just need a big striker. Or, in the midfield you evaluate Bruno, Eriksen, Van de Beek, Fred, McTominay, Garner, and Frenkie De Jong if he comes in. It's a lot of players. And by next summer, depending on how Ten Hag wants to play, which it was reported and seems very clear, is not with a defensive midfielder. It would be more of the Shone De Jong type midfield. Then you may not need as much as you think you need. And I think that is what Ten Hag is looking at too, but it's also a reason why he's brought in. I know that I'm overly positive sometimes on these things. Actually, here's a bit, sorry, this just came up. Here's a bit of huge news that I was just talking about in this video that I was just recording 10 minutes ago. Richard Arnold and John Murtough are in Barcelona, having talks directly with Barcelona to resolve the Frenkie De Jong situation. There you go. There you have it. That was what was expected this week. That's what I was just talking about. They're there. It's been reported. That is huge, huge, huge for the resolution of this situation. Sorry, interrupting there, but yeah, that is huge, huge news. Put in the Discord last night that we expected this. I was told that there was specifically a meeting with that they were planning to have a meeting this week to kind of finally push on this and finalize it and get it done. And this is happening very quickly now, very, very quickly now, and face-to-face with the big guys. So it seems that they're there to get some resolution on this and get things done. This is the right way to do it. This is the way to not protract the negotiations and to move things forward specifically. So it's very exciting stuff. After this video, if things come up, I'll obviously start putting things out as quickly as possible as I hear them. What I am hearing is, to go back to what I was talking about before, outside of all the excitement of this, which is I'm extremely encouraged by the coaching. I've mentioned before, but I've been hearing for a few weeks now that the team is incredibly encouraged by the quality and level of coaching that Ten Hag and his assistants are bringing. And the fact of the matter is, I spoke about this under Ralph, and it was true under Ole, and it was true even under Jose. They have not received this level of coaching before at Manchester United. Last season, the players were completely lost what to do, literally completely lost what to do in terms of their jobs, instructions. The training was just too basic. The coaching was too basic. Under Ole, there were certain things coached well with McKenna and Carrick, but the attacking patterns and playing in possession was especially lacking. Under Ole, obviously, there were certain things coached well, but the attacking patterns were definitely lacking again. The broad possession, tactical understanding definitely wasn't there, and Jose doesn't actually coach the final third at all. He calls it something broad discovery or something like that, where you're supposed to basically figure it out. Obviously, Jose is a coach that defend, move fast, and transition, and you figure the rest out yourself. So you can imagine many of these players are experiencing this level of coaching for the first time at United, and some for the first time in their careers, and this is why Ten Hag was hired. I'm not like Martial's biggest fan, for example, but even I have hope right now for him in this. Rashford, Martial, Sancho as a front three is a better front three than the front three that scored a lot of goals in 1920 and 2021. A lot of goals. And Ten Hag will know how to get the most out of these guys, including guys like Fred, guys like Bruno, guys like Eriksen, obviously Donny van de Beek being in the team. He will know how to get the most out of these players. He's got these patterns down already. And I sincerely think we'll be back to seeing a team that was actually, even under Ole at times, getting very, very scary in 2021. And that was before Sancho. That was before Varane. That was before, without factoring in Ronaldo, and before additions this summer, which are at the very least good competition and rotation for Shaw, another ball-playing center back, hopefully, Eriksen, who is a fantastic player who can press, rotate with Bruno, can maybe even, leapfrog him, but can also play in other positions, at the very least give him a huge rest. And then, of course, now that looks, hopefully, and should happen, the massive, huge, unbelievable upgrade to the midfield that is Frenkie De Jong. So yes, I'm very, very optimistic with the training, with the level of coaching, with what's going on with Ten Hag, that this is going to be a good year with the signings that they've laid out. Ten Hag was brought in to bring some of these players back to life, and I think that is what he's doing. And I can see a lot of complaining concerns about it already, about Harry Maguire being captain, about, players like Rashford who are going to be getting another chance, about a lot of this. And I'm not dropping the demands, but I'm saying, the club have to get him Frenkie De Jong now, or they failed, and that's why they're in Barcelona. However, I have maintained for a long time that this team isn't what we saw last season, that the players are much better, and that the level of coaching was actually shambolic at times, and it has to be factored into this, not that they can be absolved of blame. I expect Ten Hag to surprise, to be closer than we expect. There's a lot of talent on this team, and players in multiple positions who have, over the last few seasons, been undoubtedly some of the best in their position in the league. If you wanted a coach to come in, spend $200 million on a few big names and try to win the league next year, that wasn't why Ten Hag was brought in. This is a long-term project. You got to back him on what he wants to do and what he's doing with the players that we have and what he believes in them and what he can get out of them. and just stick with the plan. And I think we'll be getting somewhere. So anyway, I'm incredibly excited to see what happens. Games return tomorrow with the match versus Liverpool. I'll do a video to talk about it as well as any updates. I'm going to try to get this out quickly now because obviously this is a very fluid situation, and I expect news, given how Gerard Romero and these Barcelona guys work, I expect news will break probably before this video is done in terms of where things are at on the deal, but we will find out very shortly. Thanks for watching. I hope this is interesting. I'm feeling much better at the end of the video at the start with the news that this meeting is happening. So let's see what's going on now. Again, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. I'll see you in the next one.